And so there's a real passion for whatever it is we're involved in, we want to improve it. And it's pretty easy to equate that to real estate of, we're going to buy a distressed asset and make it better. We're going to take an area and fix it. But we really take that also and apply it to those we work with.
His commitment, of core set of values that has helped him move forward and also help others do the same thing. Please welcome to the show with me, Dale Willis.
If you're with us for a year or you're with us for 20 years, I want you to be better as a result for your association with our company. And so we apply that to everything, improve everything we touch.
Welcome to the Build It to Billions podcast, where we guide successful entrepreneurs and investors on their journey from millions to billions. We believe the key to scaling your business and compounding your wealth starts every day with a mindset of stewardship over ownership and applying billionaire principles. Our ultimate goal to help you scale and compound your wealth so you can give more or all of it away for maximum impact. I'm your host today, Brett Swartz, and in every episode, we feature some of the world's top entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. They share their principles, values, secrets, and wisdom, providing each of us with the insights we need to reach the next level of success and impact. I'm excited about our next guest. He is out of the great state of Minnesota. I like to put a little accent on it as well. I think they appreciate that when people like California try to have that accent. All kidding aside, he's the founder and owner of Centric Companies. His passion lies in creating vibrant and valuable communities where families can make lasting memories. Span over 35 years in the real estate industry. He believes that it's his commitment of core set of values that has helped him move forward and also help others do the same thing. Please welcome to the show with me, Dale Willis. Dale, how are we doing?
Good to be with you, Brett.
Awesome. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, give them a little bit more about your story and your current focus.
Yeah, I've been involved in real estate in some fashion my entire life, with the exception of a very short period of time in retail. I repented of that and went back into real estate. And, it started in Northern California, where we both grew up and spent quite a bit of our lives, and did a little bit of construction, then did some banking, some construction development and mortgage banking. Was in part of creating a city from scratch. We put in the water infrastructure, the sewer infrastructure, chartered the city, the whole thing. That was a lot of fun. The market fell apart in 2008, and in 2010 decided to go out on my own again. I was working for a national at that point and started up a company that we were working with banks primarily to help them work through all of their distressed assets. And eventually, as we worked through those assets, we had acquired a bunch of assets that we just started building and developing, primarily focused on for sale housing. And then we do some value add apartments and office as well.
Amazing. And we both did grow up in Northern California. And then today we're going to be talking about developing, large opportunities. And as a part of that, though, we're going to take another kind of different angles to this. It's the ROE of buying and selling, right? The return on equity, and kind of just diving into the mindset of how and where you're looking to invest, as well as how and when you're looking to invest. And we'll weave into some capital gains tax stuff as well, because we'll also be streaming this on Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Capital Gains Tax Solutions, where you can buy and sell at any time, no restrictions on timing, not having to use a 1031 exchange. But Dale, before we jump into all of that, I want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life, and these gifts have been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. So I'm curious, what would you say is your one or two maybe gifts or superpowers that has helped you help people the most and be a blessing in this life to others?
I almost hate saying it's a gift. It's more of a drive and desire, and maybe it is a gift. Even our company focus, our core focus is we improve everything we touch. And so there's a real passion for whatever it is we're involved in, we want to improve it. And it's pretty easy to equate that to real estate of, we're going to buy a distressed asset and make it better. We're going to take an area and fix it. But we really take that also and apply it to those we work with. We have a equity raise company now, and it all stemmed from trying to help our employees build wealth. We want, if you're with us for a year or you're with us for 20 years, I want you to be better as a result for your association with our company. And so we apply that to everything, improve everything we touch.
Awesome. Love that. Improve everything we touch. So with that in mind, what would you say is the number one secret right now to buying and selling at optimal timing for you guys? And when you're analyzing whether to hold or to sell, and then we'll dive into kind of like master, plan communities and sort of like your guys' focus for how you're building the wealth.
I'm a big believer in you'll find what you're looking for. There's a lot of people in 2009, 10, 11 that, all they saw were problems. And we made a lot of money in 2011, 12, and 13 as a result of those problems. And I see a lot of that right now where a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines. Now, you might be sitting on the sidelines because you're waiting for the right opportunity, which is really smart. But I also see a lot of people that are sitting on the sidelines waiting for the market to change, waiting for something to improve. And so if you're only looking for problems, waiting for something to improve, that's all you're going to find are problems. But I'm a huge believer in there's opportunities in every market. And so it's really important to have the mindset that you're looking for them, because you're not going to find something you're not looking for. You're only going to find what you're looking for.
I like that. So it's kind of like, it sounds like waiting to have a clear, there's a difference between waiting and having a clear positive vision that you will find something that is a great deal, versus just waiting passively because let's wait for the whole market to change. So that's the slight shift. Is that am I hearing that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's apply that now. Like, what are you seeing right now? It's been a kind of a wild, 18 months. We're recording this in mid-July, and a lot's going on. Elections on the horizon here. We just, over the weekend was one of the wildest thing in American history with the assassination attempt of former President Trump. Like, what are you seeing with all of that? Let's say anxiousness and uncertainty, and people perhaps not having that clear positive vision right now because it's kind of murky out there.
We're seeing opportunities as a result. A lot of people are scared, rightfully so. But whoever's the president come January is going to create new opportunity. I just don't know what that opportunity is going to be. But I mean, you have really taken advantage. Taking advantage might be the wrong word, but you really capitalized on the opportunity that was created through opportunity zones and helping people create wealth. Well, nobody could have predicted that would have existed in 2016. And it came because of a new president. And had Hillary won, there would have been different opportunities that were presented. So I don't know what the opportunities are going to come. But we're seeing a lot of people are waiting. Interest rates are high. And so it's really hard to pencil a lot of deals out there. There's no doubt about that. There's deals that we aren't doing because they just don't make sense at the interest rates. As we, of this recording, you're give or take 7% for a lot of opportunities. Well, it's hard to make it work when you're competing against somebody that's sitting at a 3% give or take interest rate. And so, you've still got to be smart about it. But what we're seeing is opportunities are coming to us because a lot of people are sitting on the sidelines doing nothing. And so all of a sudden, we're negotiating on a deal right now that they asked $4.5 million for. And we're saying, well, we think we can pay 3.5. Well, they're interested in talking to us. 25% discount's pretty great, from what it was worth 2 years ago. And so what's happening is because we're looking for opportunities, people are bringing those to us, and we just have to say, okay, what makes sense? And let's offer what does make sense on these deals. And so that's what we're seeing is because so many people are sitting on the sidelines, we're seeing deals that, would have been shopped to a whole lot more people than us.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. We're looking at a deal right now. We're actually just closed and we're still raising for it, but it's $90,000 per unit. The comps were 150 to 160, just a year ago or so. It's a distressed seller, but a performing property, which I think is the best of both worlds, Dale. And tell me what you think here, because he has other properties that the debt has gone, let's say, sideways, and it's tough, and those deals are sinking. The property that's the winner, he's having to sell at a discount quickly in order to keep the other ones afloat. And I picture like a ship that's taking a voyage from New York to Europe, right? And it's going over, and it needs about 2 or 3 years to get there, let's just say. But it has these holes. These holes are from the debt. The actual ship is great, except for the debt just pouring in. And if they can get to there without the sink ship and perhaps being able to refi or something happens that changes there. But for those that cannot, they're like, well, we're going to sink. They got to sell the deals that are nice or the better deals at a discount. And that's what we're buying. It's 355 units. It's value add, and it's Tennessee. It's the 16th fastest growing city in America. But those type of opportunities I feel like in the last 30 days alone, I feel like the sellers are finally saying, oh, okay, we're ready. Are you sensing that same thing too? Or what's been the timing of it for 2024 for you?
Yeah, we're seeing the exact same thing. And what you're saying there, Brett, is spot on. I mean, you're seeing an opportunity. We're seeing, there's not a ton of it, but there's quite a few people that bought assets. They performed these things at a 3% interest rate, and they've got a 5 to 10 year balloon. And all of a sudden now some of these balloons are coming due. Well, I might have to sell this at a discounted rate, but I got to get some of this equity out or I'm going to lose all of my deals. And so now you have an opportunity to buy a fantastic asset at a discount that's going to pencil. And a lot of people are waiting for interest rates to come down. Well, that's just silly, because if interest rates come down, how much money are you going to make, Brett, when you get to refinance that baby? I mean, you're going to make a ton of money, but if it pencils today, it's an interesting point that I think we miss is if you look in the late 60s, interest rates were pretty low. In the early 70s, they drop. I mean, they go up rather. They go up. And so a lot of people sat on the sidelines saying, let's wait for these interest rates to come down. Well, guess what? That didn't happen until the early 90s. So how much wealth did they miss out on sitting and waiting that they could have been building and finding assets just like what you just described? So we're seeing the same thing. The deal that I just talked about, it's a small deal, $4.5 million deal. It's a raw land piece. And so we would develop it as something, but a 25% discount, that thing might make sense suddenly, but it's only in my lap because everybody else said no before I saw it.
Yeah, and to that point, I feel like what we're referring to here, what we're talking about, is a concept that we talked about, like 3D investing. And for us in real estate, this is what it means. You have cash flow, you have tax flow, and you have debt flow. And for the longest time, we took debt flow for granted. I mean, I had clients tell me, "Oh, debt's going to be low forever because of all this." It's in who knew that COVID was going to hit and they're going to print so much money for the inflation and all of those things. But those things happen. It's like the interest rates go high, they go low. But the point is, debt flow is now changed drastically, and so now you've got to adjust the tax flow and the cash flow. And this is where I think it's interesting. I know we've been talking about the deferred sales trust for potentially for some of your exits coming up, and the idea of what's called an ROE. And an ROE is return on equity, right? And an opportunity to say, if I can sell and take that equity and redeploy, it's actually better to sell right now the ones that are winners, as long as you can defer that tax and buy at a more of a discount. That's the way I see it. If you can get time on your side, right? So talk about what I'm saying. That what resonates: debt flow, cash flow, tax flow, is in ways to make sense of that.
Well, yeah, just to address those that are listening, Brett and I are working on a deal together now. And, in our discussion, you asked me, does it make sense to sell it now? And this particular asset, some it doesn't, but this particular asset, it does make sense. Let's sell that thing now. And I'm not going to be able to sell it for what I could have gotten 3 years ago. That's just the reality of it. However, if I can sell that asset tax-free, which is huge with the system you have set up, I'm not paying those taxes. Now I can take 100% of the equity I do get, roll it into the next asset, which should have some kind of a value add for us. Similar to your Tennessee deal, there's a value add there. So I'm going to miss out on that value add. And, subject to inflation, 3-4 years from now, that asset that I have is not going to appreciate that much. But if I can go get a value add deal that I can create a 10+% value add, that multiple is really pretty significant. And so for us, it's let's keep playing the game and roll these. It's important. If I had to pay taxes, that'd be a totally different game. But with your system as an example, where I can avoid the tax, I can be able to reinvest that money and do it in an honest way. I mean, that's a home run for us. And so it makes sense to keep turning those assets for us.
Absolutely, and what we're referring to is a deferred sales trust, and you can avoid the taxes in the year of sale, and you can keep it working for you. And so I think it's important to understand this piece of it when you say value add, because some people might say, well, where are you seeing all of those deals? Well, I don't think they realize that you're a master plan community developer, right? And you add the value in the sense of you find the land and you might entitle it or get it to a place where it's fully shovel ready, but then you're actually going to construct and move that forward. So adding value is not always just buying the beat down apartment complex and changing the countertops and putting new appliances in and changing the windows to a dual pane window and then just increasing the rents. Value add can actually mean a whole nother thing. So talk about the value you're talking about as far as construction, and then we'll tie this in on how the deferred sales trust is perfect for it versus a 1031.
Yeah, just clarity. We do, as you're aware, we do some value add of we're changing the windows and the decks and that. In fact, the asset that we're talking about right now is a value add. We went in and put in new windows, we put in new decks, we put in new doors. Right now, most of our focus is exactly what you said on the value add of the development. And so if I can take several $1 million and put it into a new deal, well, I can do a deal twice as big because I didn't pay taxes on it. I can put it in that new deal. And now we're doing the value add of getting the entitlements, doing the development, doing the construction, which generally is going to be a 20, 30% value add. So if I buy the land, we'll use that example of this $4.5 million piece. If I could buy that for 3.5, this particular project, we would actually put 120 units on it. And so we do those 120 units. I've got a 20 to 30% value add there. And so, you do that math real quick, you're a $35 million or so asset. And if I've got 20% value add there, I got a $6 to $8 million value. And I couldn't have done that deal. I would have had to do half the size of the deal if I didn't do that exchange with our asset.
Yeah, the deferred sales trust. And this is really, really important to understand, right? Because in a 1031 exchange, you have to buy something of equal or greater value, and you have to do that within basically identification of 45 days and then 180 days from closing. So what Dale's referring to is buying land and developing that land, right? And so you got the math doesn't always line up for what you're buying when you're buying it. With the deferred sales trust, there's no timing restrictions, and there's also no like-kind replacement requirement, and you can have the money sit in T-bills at 5% while you're going through the entitlement process, while you're doing some construction, and it can fund the deal over time. It's sort of like creating your own bank in a sense that's tax deferred, right, in and out, because the trust owes you the money, but it can also partner with you to do your own deal. And this is the key here. This is why we call it Netflix to the blockbuster. And while most people go, because I don't know if you want to share your numbers of the property you're selling and the total asset cost of the one you're gonna buy and purchase and go through, but oftentimes it just none of it lines up. The timing doesn't line up, and you're stuck going, yeah, like man, I'll just hold on or I'll try to cash out a refi. But then if you do that, higher interest rates, you have the arbitrage there, or you don't have as much of an LTV, and so you're going, if I can just harvest that, tax defer it, get time on my side, get cash flow, tax flow, and debt flow going in my favor. That to me it's almost like I guess I would call it a value add tax flow, cash flow, debt flow strategy, right? It's the in between to get there that you got to add the value on that plan versus just the actual construction. Any thoughts on that, or did I miss anything?
Yeah, no, you're spot on. I'm happy to share that the asset that Brett and I are talking about is a fairly small asset. It was a value add. We went in and gutted them, basically down to the sheetrock. And we really took advantage of the bonus depreciation, and we've depreciated it pretty significantly. When we sell that property, we're going to be looking at about a $2.5 million gain. And so, it's $2.5 million is a lot of money. It's not a big asset, but $2.5 million is a lot. Well, if I have to realize that gain, I'm going to be putting 1.3 million in my pocket, 1.2 million because I live in Minnesota. We get the advantage of another 10% on top of the federal. And so, I'm looking at, I'm going to be a $1.3 million. Whereas, what can I go buy for 1.3 million versus what can I go buy for 2.5 million is pretty significant.
Yeah, it's huge, right? And let alone the so the ROE. And so one thing I want to challenge all of our listeners, if you're listening, is to do an ROE. Look at your total equity and your total cash flow, and look at your total equity net of closing costs, and just do a calculation to take your NOI. And you could also do your NOI minus your debt service for your cash flow. And you look at that number, divide it by your equity net of closing costs, and that will give you what's called your return on equity. We did a recent deal, Dale, for $2.5 million. Net of closing costs, it was about $2.35. Their NOI was about $120,000, right? They didn't really have much debt on the property. So that didn't really come into play. And so we looked at 120 divided by 2.35 million, and that gave us a number. Then we took a separate number. Okay, if we could put 2.35 million into the deferred sales trust, and we could earn, and we're going to earn somewhere around 8 or 9% net of the recurring fees, a compounding rate of return. And their cash flow increased by $70,000. It went to about $190,000 approximately, call it like an NOI, if you apples to apples as much as you could. And they were blown away. And they're like, wait, so no more toilets, no more trash, no more termites, no more rent control in California, no more the insurance costs going through the roof, no more, I can spend more time with my family, and I can increase my cash flow and decrease my risk and have some asset protection. They're like, why wouldn't I do this? Exactly. And so they sold, and we did it. And we actually did it right at the perfect time before interest rates started to shoot up. And so they got a premium price for the property. That worked out for them. And now they've also diversified. So talk about the importance of diversification, right? For those that are selling, perhaps even clients or investors that work with you guys that, have that highly appreciated primary home or stock or business sale, and they want to be able to invest with a developer like yourself who has a talent and a passion for amazing, excellent communities, and the ability to not have to stay stuck in these New Yorks, these New Jerseys, these Californias. We both were from Northern California, by the way, Placerville, El Dorado Hills, Sacramento area, and it's brutal, right, to feel trapped by that. But if they can unlock that capital and then invest with you passively, talk about the value of that.
Yeah, I touched on it earlier. We started Central Capital Partners. It started 2 years ago. We allow our employees, they can buy houses at cost. And what we encourage them to do is buy a house at cost and turn it into rental. We worked with a bank and said, would you lend them money based on value, not cost? So they could basically get 100% loan. And we've got a bank that we partner with that has done that for our employees. So they're not having to put any money into these deals. They buy them, they keep them as a rental. 2 years ago, I'm talking to one of my guys that has done this many times. He's got a whole bunch of rentals, doing really well with it. And we were talking about some of the tax advantages I have versus him. And I'm like, this is terrible. I can build wealth at a much accelerated rate compared to what he can do because I'm self-employed and he's not. And that started the process where I'm like, we've got to do something about this. I've got to be able to help my friends, my employees, our team members to build wealth as fast as I am. And so we came up with this plan and ultimately said, well, why don't we offer it also to our friends and anybody else that wants to build wealth alongside? And we started Central Capital Partners. And the intent now is we allow people to co-invest with us in projects that we have, that whether they're built for rent or for sale housing or an apartment complex, that they can put the money in. And, I'm terrible at the stock market. I firmly believe in the adage we all know of the market can stay irrational longer than I can stay liquid. And so I'm terrible. Every stock investment I go is really, really smart. Just ask me, I'll tell you how smart I am with it. And then I lose money. Then a year later, it's like, oh, well, that did play out. I just was impatient or I got scared so I've got an IRA that we actually have the ability to invest IRAs into our deals too, that we allow people. And I'm looking at my IRA going, I'm actually making less than 5.21%, which is right now our inflation rate for the last 3 years, which means I'm losing money in my IRA. And so we put it in, and so it gives people the ability to invest in for sale housing, build for rent housing, apartment complexes that are giving a much stronger rate of return that, a lot of people want to be in real estate. But to your point, a lot of people don't want to deal with the cockroaches. They don't want to deal with the person that, smoked meth in their apartment. They don't want to deal with the furnace that broke. And we do, because we're doing value add, because we're doing new, we don't deal with that as much. Even the apartment that was a value add, well, all the mechanicals changed, all of that, and you're still dealing with the cockroaches and stuff. But in our case, we go hire people that are the best of the best at property managing, and we don't do it ourselves. We do what we're the best at, and that's finding opportunities and building those opportunities out to create wealth. And so it's working really well for us. And it gives people that opportunity to diversify. Doctors, dentists, a lot of those people that it's like, well, I'm in the medical, but how do I diversify into real estate without creating a second job that I have to manage?
Absolutely. And by the way, we're speaking with Dale Willis. You can find him by going to centrahomes.com, centrahomes.com. That's CENTRA homes.com. You can also look him up on LinkedIn. I'm going to spell Willis for you. It's Wills, Wills. There's no I in between the I and the S. So Wills. And it's Dale R, Wills, Dale R. Wills. You know, the interesting part of this whole wealth transfer to me, and also I think it's like the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, book, Robert Kiyosaki, and the ability to, build, passive income to replace, your living expenses, right? The financial free. But I think the thing that got missed inside of that is the time, energy, and the stress that is involved with, not scaling so big that you stay small or you stay medium. Or if you're doing it all yourself and you don't have the big team, the culture, the team, you even said, like, for you guys, you're doing the property management third party, right? Because you guys are specializing in what you love and are passionate about. We had a client, he did a $10 million mobile home park exit for 5 parks, and he worked a full-time job the entire time, did this on the side, looked up and goes, wow, I've got like 10 million bucks. I can retire from my day job. Very cool. But he goes, the mobile home parks are taking up a lot of his time and energy and stress, and it wasn't his passion, right? And so he sold, used the deferred sales trust, deferred his tax, paid off his debt, and now can be living more of his passion. So just talk about the importance and the energy that you get that every day you can live your passion with helping people create and preserve more wealth, and also build houses and do the things and build communities and apartment complexes and redevelop. And the importance of living, not just a financial free life, but like a passion driven life.
It's funny you asked the question. Literally before we jumped on our call today, I was just talking to my wife about that very thing. Are we really doing what we love? Are we really passionate about it? We're very, very busy. And some days I love that. And some days not so much, but we love to travel. We own a cattle ranch that we actually live at. We develop, we're very involved in our church community. And we were just talking about that the president of our company has asked me more than once, when are you going to hang it up? And I've said, when I'm not having fun anymore. So as long as I've got passion and I'm having fun, let's go do it. And so as long as I'm making a difference, then it's fun for me. But I think that's so important. And one of the things we do when we hire new employees, one of the things we look at is do they understand the responsibility of the job? Do they have the capacity to do the job? And then do they want it? We all know people that have jobs that they don't want, or they have businesses that they don't want. They just kind of got trapped in it somehow. And for me, I think it's just so important that, I love my cattle ranch, but I also have somebody that manages it full time, because I don't want to do the daily chores. I don't want a snow removal, but I do want to come home and have fun on the tractor when I feel like it, or not. And so I think that's really a key thing. If you're in an industry that you love, but you want to be in real estate, why do you want to be in real estate? Do you want to be in real estate like I'm in cattle ranching and you have somebody else manage it? Or do you actually want to learn the real estate and, do extermination of cockroaches?
So good and so deep. And I want to make sure I got this right. Is Wills how you pronounce the last name real fast? I want to make sure I got it.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, for everybody listening, Brett and I have been friends for a year, and he just calls me Dale. That's what friends do. We don't know each other's last name.
So, I'm here with Dale Wills, everybody. And I have one big question for you right now for this part of the podcast. And it's this, and it's really the essence of what the Build to Billions podcast is about, which is stewardship over ownership, right? You're a man of faith. I'm a man of faith, Dale. And when that comes to mind, what comes to mind, and what wisdom can you share with our audience when it comes to being a steward of everything that you have right now versus an owner?
Yeah, I think it goes back to we improve everything we touch. In our church community, church community is pretty important to me because it's a way of giving. It's a way of strengthening others. I've had times in my life that were really hard, that we were down and others gave to us and lifted us up. And I'm a big believer in how do we lift and strengthen those around us, whether it's people that we're working with, whether it's people that we're doing a business deal with, whether it's people in our church community, our neighbors. I just think that's such a powerful principle, because when I'm strengthening others, it strengthens me. It's in a selfish way, I'm better for it because I'm a better man. I'm happier. I'm more fulfilled when I get to do that.
Couldn't agree with you more. It's so powerful. And I think it's such a thing that we need to all practice daily, right? It's stewardship over ownership. And knowing that we're here for just a brief moment in time, and we don't know how many days that we have, and the opportunity to help and bless other people. Today is the day to do that, not to wait, not to live in fear, live in faith, and to press forward. And that's what we're here. That's why we created the Build It to Billions podcast. To try to take the discussion to a different focus, right? Definitely building wealth, definitely understanding tax and cash flow and tax flow and building communities, but ultimately, like, how do we help one another live in our passion, live with a stewardship ownership mindset, and to make a big impact for the world and those around us. And so this is why we're here at the Build It Billions podcast. Hoping you're enjoying this episode. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Capital Gains Tax Solutions. If you're looking to sell a highly appreciated asset, it could be a business, real estate, cryptocurrency, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. You want to make sure that you're not overpaying for a property in a 1031 exchange. You want to have flexibility with timing. The deferred sales trust is an amazing fit for that, and our team here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions can help you execute on that. That being said, Mr. Dale, are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back and sit down with the person that you most admire, and you're 20 years old, what's the one or two things that he would tell you that would save you hundreds of hours and perhaps, put thousands of more dollars in your pocket?
It would really be believe in yourself. When you know something to be true, go after it. Don't second guess yourself. I spent too much time second guessing, and still be methodical about it, but go and be a little more aggressive. Make things happen, and learn more. I'm a huge learner, and it took me a long time to grasp this. It's been a building block, but I wish I would have been a learner earlier on.
Excellent. Speaking of learning, what's the number one book that you've recommended the most in the past year or gifted away to somebody?
Yeah, I'm a huge reader. And when I say the word read, I use that pretty loosely because I actually physically read maybe 30% of the books I read, and the other 70% I listen. And I read 50 to 60 books a year. And, one that's really spoken to me in the last year, it's a series of 3 books that have come out over several years, but I reread them all in his newest book. Benjamin Hardy wrote, with the principles from Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach. He wrote Gap in the Gain, Who Not How, and 10X is Easier Than 2X. And if you haven't read those books, I would read them in that order. If you've read one of them, it doesn't matter if you're in order, but there is value reading them in order. But that really spoke to me. The Gap in the Gain is about the progress you've made rather than the progress you didn't make. So look at